We have Salih Hudayar, who is the Prime Minister of the East Turkestan government in exile. Salih, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Would you, for people who are just not familiar, tell us East Turkestan, what part of the world are we talking about?
East Turkestan is the homeland of Uyghur, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples. It was invaded and occupied by China in late 1949, and the Chinese have renamed it to Xinjiang, or officially the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, since 1955.
Last week or week before last, fairly recently, Mayor Francis Suarez of Miami, who is one of many who are wanting to seek the Republican nomination for president, was asked a question about the Uyghurs, and he didn't know what the questioner was talking about. So for the benefit of the mayor and everybody else, who are the Uyghurs?
So the Uyghurs are the native inhabitants of East Turkestan. They have lived in East Turkestan, having a history of over 6,000 years. They're ethnically Turkic and predominantly Muslim people who are facing genocide under the Chinese government. The Uyghurs are the people that are, the Chinese government has been locking up in concentration camps and prisons, engaging in forced labor and sterilization. They are a unique, different, Turkic people that make up the majority of East Turkestan, and that's the main reason why the Chinese government is engaging in its genocidal and colonial policies, is to eradicate the Uyghur population and ensure that East Turkestan becomes, forever a part of China, as they like to claim.
And so, if you are an ethnic Uyghur living in that part of the world, what is your life like?
If you are an ethnic Uyghur living in East Turkestan, if you are not in the concentration camps and prisons, if you're a male, you're in between the ages of 15 and 45. The chances of you being locked up in a concentration camp or in prison is very high. If you are lucky enough not to be locked up in a concentration camp or prison, then you are either sent to slave labor or forced labor camps, either inside East Turkestan or inside Chinese provinces. And if you get lucky enough to, bypass that, then you're under constant surveillance. You have Chinese government minders, which are officially called, relatives, as the Chinese government claims, who monitor your day-to-day activities, who live with you, who eat with you. Every bit of your movement is tracked. You can't even go from one part of town to another part of town, of your town, without going through multiple, checkpoints or getting special permission to go outside to another city.
And what is driving the Chinese animosity toward this is their native land? What is driving this?
Well, the Chinese, Pakistan, 1949, they have been engaging in a systematic campaign of colonization. However, after the fall of the Soviet Union, pro-independence sentiments, grew amongst the Uyghur and other Turkic peoples, who are are very similar to the Turkic peoples in Central Asia, which gained their independence in 1991. And so the Chinese government feels threatened by the East Turkestan people's, pro-independence sentiments, and so they are trying to essentially wipe out the...
Salih, we're starting to lose you. Can you move back to where you were? I think we have lost Salih. I think we have. Don't you just love cell technology? It's wonderful when it works. We'll give him just a second. Salih, can you hear us?
Yeah, yes.
There you are. You're back. Okay. We lost a lot of what you said. And we're still losing it. Okay. We'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put Salih on hold, and we're going to try to reestablish the connection. Because the question I want to ask is, what is the U.S. government's response to this? What are we doing about it? If we are so concerned in this country about the legacy of slavery, what are we doing about slavery that's happening right now, today, on the very planet that where we're supposed to have done away with slavery. If it is so abhorrent, which it is, then what is the U.S. government's response with respect to all of this? We're back to we're talking about where we started this morning. The Chinese are emblematic of what a totalitarian state looks like, and the totalitarianism toward which we are starting to drift. I mean, all government drifts is drawn toward totalitarianism. Governments seek control. The Chinese have absolute control over their people, and they have absolute terroristic control over people that they don't like. We never, ever, ever want that to happen here. We simply don't. And when you have, as we've had in the United States, where you have a ruling class that sees itself as an overlord rather than a servant of the people that elect the government, and when you start having elitism where the attitude gets abroad in the land that some people were meant to lead and some were meant to follow, unquestioningly, you start moving in the direction of totalitarianism. I hope we can get Salih back. Okay, here we go. We do have him back. Salih, we got you back. Are you there?
Yes. Apologies for the phone connection issue.
Okay. So anyway, you were saying.
Yes. The Chinese government is engaging in genocide against the Uyghur and other Turkic populations because East Turkestan is not a part of China. And the fact that after the fall of the Soviet Union, pro-independence sentiments rose amongst the Uyghur and other Turkic populations, seeing that their other Turkic kin in Central Asia, like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, gained their independence. And for the Chinese government, this was seen as a so-called security risk, in which they initiated systematic, a campaign of mass internment and forced labor, forced sterilization in an effort to eradicate the Uyghur and other Turkic population in order to prevent East Turkestan's independence and to ensure that East Turkestan remains under Chinese control.
Salih Hudayar, who's the Prime Minister of the East Turkestan government in exile, is our guest. The question I have for you is, what is the U.S. response to all of this? I mean, what has been the response to prior administrations, and what is the current administration's response to all of this?
Well, under the under the Obama administration, unfortunately, the United States government actually supported China's efforts because China is claiming that it was undertaking so-called counterterrorism campaigns in East Turkestan. And because of the Obama administration's efforts at the time to, cooperate with China, they essentially threw us under the bus. However, the Trump administration began to, speak out against atrocities because it wasn't, so-called counterterrorism as the Chinese government claimed. They targeted the entire Uyghur and other Turkic populations, locking up millions of people into concentration camps, sterilizing hundreds of thousands of women, separating nearly 1 million children from their families, and sending millions of people into, forced labor and slave labor camps. In 2021, in the last days of the Trump administration, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo officially designated China's atrocities against Uyghurs and other Turkic peoples as genocide. The U.S. government under the previous administration issued numerous sanctions against Chinese officials and entities. The current administration, unfortunately, has been backtracking and even delaying sanctions as they try to improve relations with China and turning a blind eye, essentially, to the ongoing genocide that's happening in East Turkestan.
Where can people go to learn more, Salih?
They can learn more by visiting our website, east-turkestan.net, or by following us on social media at ETExileGov or ETNational.
Salih Hudayar, who is the Prime Minister of the East Turkestan government in exile, our guest this morning on the Mark Davis Show with Paul Gleiser filling in. Salih, I wish you and your people the very best, and thank you for being a part of the program.
Thank you for having me.
866